Hi there, this is a video accompanying the Joomla tutorial series developing an MVC component, and it's the third video associated with this step, adding cache. And in this video I'm proposing to look through the tutorial code and look at speed measurements on our caching. Now I guess the first thing to say is that caching should really only be applied to the site. It's not a good idea to apply it to the admin side of things. So this only looks at the site. And if you've gone through the other couple of videos, this will hopefully come as no surprise. Our code here, we're setting cacheable, and we're basing that on whether the user is logged in or whether the view name is form, and the view name form refers to our form, which allows the front end entry of a new message. And the reason we don't want to cache this is that if a user comes and fills it in, saves, and then there's any problem, they want to get presented with what the problem was and their pre-filled data from last time so they can correct it rather than a cached page. So in general forms or anything like shopping baskets, you don't really want to cache. And the second thing we're setting up is our set of parameters which will go into the cache key, and remember we need to have that unique for each sort of page that we're displaying. So for example, we've got 3 pages here. This one which we're not going to cache. This is our normal hello world page. This is the list of messages associated with a certain category. So if we switch on F12 and we do something like change this, oops, get this down a bit. That will send a post to the server. And you can see there, these are the sorts of parameters that we have to have. Not only in the query string, but also things that are passed in the post data. Those are the things which are going to define a unique page that is that we get in response to that. Plus anything we get from here when we do a click on this, things like the ID mainly. So those are the things that we have to put into our URL parameters to make sure that the cache is unique. This is just removing the token check from the display. And really that's all there is to it, to setting up cache and making sure that that cache gets created. And the only other thing that we have to do is make sure that we clean the cache, and we clean the cache using this little function here. Whenever any operations in the database are run by the parent admin model, it's going to call this function here, clean cache, this clean cache. So we need to actually provide that function, and all we're doing is saying clean the cache for com hello world. So whenever you set this up, you should see whenever you cache something, you'll get records in com hello world subfolder, and then when you clear them they'll disappear. So I'm going to log out here and just do a refresh of that. Now, what I'm going to do is that will have actually cached things. Whenever I do a cache, and the second time I do it, this has disappeared. And the reason for that is that way back in setting up a map, this was the step adding a map. and we needed some parameters to pass down to the JavaScript. So in the JavaScript, we used this line here to get the options, to get the data that was passed down from the server. And we used a line up here, add script options in our PHP code, to say that these are the parameters that we want added in our document, in our JavaScript. However, those are the things which aren't being passed down. Now, if we look at our cache file, let me go to cache, hello world, and we look at this, we can see these are greetings, but also what we've got at the bottom are things that are associated with data that goes into the head. For example, text HTML, car set equals UTF-8. These are items which are going into the head. Here's Ajax libs open layers. This is the the CSS for the map. Here's the JavaScript from that, from our own JavaScript jQuery. So these are items which go into the head, and what also should go into the head are those script options, but unfortunately because of this bug here, they're not actually getting put in. So you need to patch your code to make that work, at least if this hasn't been actually implemented in the live in the live instance. What you get whenever you don't have it in, I can just move this up a bit. And just zoom into here. Here's where you should have them, Joomla script options. So if you don't have them in here, then that's a problem and you'll have to fix that file. So I'm going to fix that file now. And it's in my instance, which is the old file organization. It's this one. So I'm going to just change that to HTML original. And this is the one that I've patched. So let me now try. I'll have to clear the cache first. So we'll delete all the cache. I'll rerun it here. Of course, this won't be getting it from cache, but this will actually be storing it in the cache. And then I'll reload it again, and this time it should display the map. And if we look now down at here, this is what we can see, that those script options have actually been loaded okay now. So I said all the details for actually changing that and where the file is described in the code here. And here's our code then for the Ajax. So what we're doing here is whenever we have a form of a web page like this and we click here, we're going to be sending an Ajax request to the server, which we developed in the step adding Ajax. And what we're doing in this code here is that we're storing the results of that in a cache. So the first time through, it's going to try and find a cache, but it's not going to succeed. And it's going to do the query and then store the results in the cache. So down here, we're looking at setting up the cache ID. Again, the cache ID has to be unique. So we make it unique by considering all the elements which go into the where clause, including the user. Because we're doing this when the user is logged on, we want to make sure that it reflects the access privileges that that user has. So we build into the cache key a set of the get authorized view levels, which will give the authorized view levels for the user. And we build that into the cache key, plus whether it's language enabled or not. And then we get an instance of the cache, and we pass in com hello world because we want it associated with the com hello world. So it is going to get stored then in our com hello world here, and it's probably going to be this one here, and you can see the results there. And maybe if we change this. By the way, if you are changing things like this, make sure that you put in the same number of letters, because this is serialized information and S13 has to reflect the number of letters there. So if you change the number of letters, you're going to get a problem. And then if we click on that again, oops, bye world, you can see. So it's actually taking the cached results there. And in our code, we have got the cache get, which is very similar to when we looked at the cache for viewing. Here's our display within the base controller, and we looked at this and said that if it's cacheable, it's going to try and get the cache, and it tries to get the cache by this method here. And inside this get, if it can't get the cache, it's going to run this display method on this instance. And in a similar thing here, if it can't get the cache within this method here, it's going to run this function here, which is our function down here, and pass this an array of the, it's going to pass these, this is the parameters. So we just have to pass the function name and the array of the parameters. And inside that, it will call this function, get the results, do that output buffer capturing, and that then write that to the cache file and then return the results. So if you've gone through the other videos, hopefully that will make a lot of sense. The final thing I wanted to do was to just show you how you can measure the cache. This is a little section I've been using here, using the profiler, and what you can do is set up the profiler like this, and then sometime later you can capture the number of seconds that have delayed, and I'm just writing that to a file using jlog add, which if you're interested is described here. And I'm doing the same thing for the leg which doesn't go through caching. I'm getting the number of seconds delay, I'm just writing that to file. So I'm going to start by clearing all the cache. And then doing a reload of this. Okay, so nothing has been cached now. And if I look at the log file, which would be in administrator logs, and it goes to this one. And you can see there's been a couple of lines there, but let's actually just delete those. Save that again. Now when I click on this, it's going to run it, but it's not going to find the cache file, so it's going to go to the database. So if I click on this, it'll automatically know that it's been updated, and here it's finding 0.02 seconds to actually run through and get the data from the database. And what it's also done is set up the cache. If I go back again, search again, We'll actually do another request. And it's gone down to 0.006. Go back again, click on search again. Obviously you can't see anything happening because it's the same data that's being presented, but it will actually write the results to file 0.006. And if we then go in and change the settings so that we've caching disabled, just to compare that. And then we click again. Now it will find them again, but this time it will have to go to the database. So going to the database 0.014, let's just try that again. .014. So as you can see the results, here it's just going to the database by itself, and here is going to the database plus setting up the cache. So obviously the first time through and you set up the cache, you have to not only do the database stuff but write the cache file, but thereafter it's really significantly faster just getting the cache, using the cache data from the file just for that simple query. So it is a way that you can improve your performance of your site, performance of your component, particularly if there's some complicated queries that are going on. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.